The Modi government today presented its last full budget in Parliament. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley during his speech said that this year's budget focuses on the agriculture, rural economy, health and infrastructure sectors. The government has hiked the minimum support price on Kharif crops for farmers. An increase in credit targets and new policies to address procurement, demand and forecast were also announced. The government has also announced a major health protection initiative to cover 10 crore poor families. Free health cover will be provided. Now, corporate tax rates have been cut for micro, small and medium enterprises with an annual turnover of up to 250 crore rupees. Joining me this evening on the broadcast is Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw. She is the chairperson and MD of WION Limited. Ms. Shaw, thank you so much for joining us here on the broadcast. Appreciate you taking out the time. Has the budget ticked all the boxes that you were hoping it would?
Well, certainly I think this is a budget that is a wide-ranging, comprehensive budget which basically has catered to all. So, to use your terminology, I guess it has ticked a lot of boxes.
Fair enough, but has anything appeared to you as disappointing? Has any aspect you feel not been looked into to the extent that it needed to be?
So let me start with what are the highlights and what I think are extremely important positives that this budget has thrown up. Obviously, leading the way is the National Health Protection Scheme that the government has come up with. In layperson's terminology, this is nothing but a universal healthcare program which has long been overdue for a country like ours. You know, if we want to really deliver on inclusive economic development without right to healthcare and providing healthcare coverage, we cannot do this. So I'm really glad that the government has finally announced a health coverage for almost 40% of our population. It will benefit apparently 500 million people in our country, 100 million families in our country, with a 5 lakh coverage per family for secondary and tertiary hospital care. So this is extremely important. But and a number of other budgetary outlays in science and technology, in agriculture, in infrastructure. I think all these are good positives. And when I'm asked to rate this budget, I have responded by saying that I would rather rate the budget in terms of how effectively it is implemented.
Absolutely. So implementation, I suppose that's true for. I suppose that's true for most of the undertakings taken by the government. That was the big question mark even on GST and demonetization. The implementation of these schemes so that maximum benefit trickles down to the end user. The decision, ma'am, also to reduce women's contribution to PF to 8% for the first 3 years. Do you think that's significant? It was something that you tweeted about as well.
Well, basically the whole objective is to basically skew the preferred employment towards women rather than men. But let's see what happens, That is one thing. The second thing is
all right, we've lost our connection with Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw. We'll try and reconnect with her in just a short sec. Okay, I'm being told she's back with us. Ma'am, apologize for that interruption. Can I request you to carry on? We were talking about the push for more women in India's workforce.
Yeah, so I think the 8% is definitely something that is expected to skew employment in favor of women. but let's see how effectively rolled out that is also. Secondly, I think if there are two negatives that I'd like to talk about, one is about the 10% long-term capital gains tax that they have introduced, which I don't think is really going to serve the purpose, because you have a short-term 15% capital gains tax, and with the 5% differential, I'm worried that investors will take a very short-term view of the Indian capital markets. And you don't want that, especially at a time when we are trying to get more money in the market with which to drive some of the sectoral investments. So I really worry about that aspect of the differential, in terms of long-term capital gains. So what is the incentive for people to remain invested in the markets is my question. Secondly, I think although the MSME sector has benefited from the 25% corporate tax rate, I think there should have been something to incentivize larger corporates with a reduced corporate tax, because you can see globally there is a reduction in corporate taxation. And I think if we want to remain competitive and attract investments, it would have been good to have seen a reduction in corporate tax rates, even if it was just up to 30% levels.
Absolutely. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, thank you so much for joining us this evening and sharing your perspective with us on the budget. Appreciate you taking out the time to speak with us, ma'am. So clearly, for the chairperson of WION,